Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this brand new JJ's One Man Podcast. So, we got some nonsense to talk about today, some craziness, some goofiness, more E3 stuff that's dropped within the last few days. If you didn't already know and you haven't already noticed at this point, E3 didn't happen this year for 2023. It was canceled back in May or March, I believe it was. And we had Summer Game Fest that happened not too long ago from Jeff Keighley. Did a whole bunch of presentations, reveals, kind of like a summer version of the Game Awards. But as far as E3 time is concerned, no E3 this year. But the reason why we're talking about E3 again is because it actually came out in the last few days that E3 2024 and 2025 might be canceled. Or at least at this point, it's all but confirmed. And the weird thing is that it came from the most unlikely source, and the ESA is being very coy about it. But if there's any indication to come from this year's show, or at least what happened with this year's show, as well as also other things that I've heard here and there as well, I don't think that E3 2024 or 2025 is happening. And I don't even think we're getting E3 again anytime soon. Now, where is this all coming from? If you haven't already seen it, I know I wrote about it over on Clownfish TV. I did a whole news piece write-up about it. But basically, there was a City of LA tourism committee that they had this slideshow, and they were basically talking about different numbers, for different estimates and budgets and stuff. And one of the things that they had in one of their slideshows that came out publicly, because it's a publicly available document as a PDF, they had this slide that was basically saying that they factored in the cancellations of both E3 2024 and 2025. Now, it doesn't flat out say that E3 for those 2 years is canceled, but I guess it's like estimates and stuff. And the only reason why they would put that information on there is if they had any sort of inkling of what might be going on within the next few years. You see, when a lot of these big events like E3, like Comic-Con, like PSX, like PAX, and all these different places and events you would go to or people love to go to, these are figured out well in advance. As far as the planning, the dates, I guess the budgets as well, because that's what at least, the LA City Tourism Committee would be talking about. All of that gets figured out well in advance. So when there's big changes that are coming, usually it happens well earlier in advance before we actually get any closer to the dates themselves. So why would this slideshow have this thing on here about E3 2024 and 2025 if they didn't have any sort of inkling about that being the case? Now, going back to the ESA came out with a statement shortly afterwards when this got put out there. It was put out in front of the public on social media. I know I saw Wario Land 64 actually talking about it, and GamesIndustry.biz wrote about it, The Verge, Polygon, etc. The ESA representative that I think it was Steven Totilo reached out to, they came back with a statement saying look, nothing's been decided yet. We're still trying to figure things out and whatnot. And I want to be honest with you, that's just something that you just have to say right now. I would not be surprised if sometime from now, within the next couple of months, if not towards the end of the year into next year, that the same news comes out that E3 2024 is canceled, and then 2025 subsequently is also canceled. I think that there's a couple reasons for this and a couple things behind the scenes that we probably have just not heard from and probably have just not gotten privy to. I think that one, the ESA was probably looking into different things, to move E3 out of LA. A lot of people have said there's been probably other locations they could have gone to, whether it was Vegas in the same place that CES happens, or New York, which I think is least likely, because if budget was really the problem, then New York is the worst place to go for such a major event like that. It's ridiculously expensive to do anything on that scale in New York. You really think that going from California to New York is going to be an upgrade? Come on now. I could totally see Vegas because CES happens, and CES is ridiculous as far as the Consumer Electronics Show is concerned, with how much money is put into there, and things are just cheaper overall. But there's another reason for all of this, and I think that we just have to look at this past year, this year's E3 that just didn't happen, and the previous year as well, why it didn't happen, besides the stuff going on with the pandemic. All the stuff with the whole pandemic, the global pandemic stuff, that's one thing, and that we've already talked about that to death. Everybody's mentioned something about that. But I think also the bigger reason that we've talked about many different times in a variety of places is that E3 has become less and less relevant to a lot of different companies. It's not that people don't want to go to E3. I think that people love going to E3, myself included. We love the spectacle of it. We love the announcements. We love all these different things. However, business-wise, when it comes to spending money, when it comes to mind share, when it comes to making a statement or standing out from the rest of your competition, I think more and more companies, following the examples of some of the big three companies, the big three publishers and console makers, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Microsoft, they're starting to see less and less value of going to E3 because you're going to spend all that money for all that floor space or whatever floor space that you're going to get, be at the same spot with all of your other competition and other places that are just vying for everybody's attention and stuff. It doesn't have that much of a payoff at the end of it, especially when a lot of places, whether it's the big three or some of the smaller companies, have been actually doing digital events in various different times before and or I should say during and after the pandemic. When they've actually been able to do that and get their messaging out there where they could trend on social media, people could actually, talk about their stuff a little bit more. They have a much more better chance of actually being seen and being heard and being discussed and put out there more than if they actually went to a show like E3. And again, it's not just the big console makers. I would argue the same thing about the third-party publishers like Capcom, Square Enix, Bandai Namco, Koei Tecmo. The list goes on and on. You can say the same thing about some of the Western publishers like Ubisoft, CD Projekt Red, Bethesda. Again, the list goes on. The main thing is that the show itself has become less and less important for different companies. This is why E3 2023 got canceled. We talked about this last time I talked about E3, where a bunch of companies, towards the last minute, because of the miscommunication with both the ESA and also Repop, that companies just pulled out. They were just like, you know what? The hell with this. We don't need this. And here's the other thing, too. Speaking of Repop, okay, I got word on good faith about stuff that this whole thing that came out about E3 2024 and 2025, nobody else at Repop heard about this. This was probably a thing that the ESA and other places had been discussing, but nothing involving Repop whatsoever, which is fine. And I get it, because really they're not really involved with any show right now. But it really goes to show you where there's no plan. There's no cohesiveness. There's no idea or at least proof of concept or something to give people that are interested in that show or care about E3 as a trade show any sort of solace knowing that it's still going to be around. The entire conversation since the last couple years has been that E3 is dying and that E3 is going away and that E3 is irrelevant, that we don't need E3. We could just watch Nintendo Directs, State of Plays, Microsoft Game Showcases. We could watch Summer Games Fest or anything else like that and not have an E3 and we'll be totally fine. That's the whole conversation amongst a lot of people. And I think things really got to a head after that last year, which I believe was 2019 was the last E3 that we all went to, myself included, when Jeff Keighley left the show in 2020. I think around the time of the pandemic or during the time afterwards, something like that. The news came out that he was just done with E3 because he was doing Summer Game Fest. I think that irreparably damaged that show, because Jeff had been going, I think he's gone to every single E3 show. And with someone like him, with three of the companies like Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony not really going to that show, there was almost no point for a lot of people to really care about seeing or watching or going to E3. And it's a damn shame. It's a real shame because I feel like every once in a while we'll go through the same conversation of E3's gone, it's going away, it's such a shame, let's get nostalgic, let's remember the good times and stuff. It's no, the hell with all that. Let's be real about this for a second. The reason why E3 is going away is because of a lot of stuff that's either self-inflicted or the changing of the times and the refusal to change up with them. And it's a darn shame, but it is what it is. And if anything, there's more of these signs, with this whole thing with the LA Tourism Committee, that just is another telling sign or another little bad omen that we're going to get that news, be hey guys, looks like we're not having another E3 this year. And everybody's going to be okay, so? I mean, we still got Summer Game Fest. We still got that Nintendo Direct that Nintendo likes to do in the summer. We still got a State of Play coming. We still got the Game Awards at the end of the year. So it's not like things aren't happening. I mean, we even got other conventions and other shows like Comic-Con that still could have things related to games there. I think San Diego Comic-Con this year for 2023 is a little bit weird because there's a lot of things changing up with that show too. Again, a lot of these bigger shows have been affected in various ways because of the global pandemic, but also because a lot of those companies have just not found a good way to adapt and to really kind of make their presence at those shows relevant in the same way that a digital show would be in the same case. But anyway, I digress. With E3 possibly going away for 2024 and 2025, I'm curious to know what you guys think about all this. There's been a lot of chatter online, and the chatter's been kind of indifferent. A lot of people are just okay, whatever. We expected this. We expected this to happen. This is nothing new. But then others are like, dang, man, like you guys just can't get your show together. Like you guys really just can't get things together. Like what's going on over there at the ESA? And again, too, the other thing is this like miscommunication or lack of real solid communication from the ESA and their reps. Like I get the statement to Steven Totillo, like nothing's been decided. It's still a whole year away and such. But like when you got stuff like that planned and like mentioned, and like it's publicly available. Like I feel like, there could have been a better like statement, or they could have jumped on this way before it got out, to the public, because leave it to gamers to like blow up anything, like to make a big deal about anything out there. But I think this is big enough to the point where it's like, this is really plausible given the recent history over the last few years with this show. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. Like I've seen so many interviews. I've listened to a lot of conversations and read a lot of stuff about E3 and the ESA and like how things have been done ever since I want to say like 2016, 2017. I think was it 2016 or 2017 where they started first letting the public in to go into E3 when it was not really so much of a trade show anymore. It was like a wannabe PAX or a wannabe, San Diego Comic-Con, just like in the guise of a trade show for E3. Like it was a lot of weird stuff. And again, so many people out there feel like they know what they're talking about. They know what's best, but I don't think anybody really knows what's best. I feel like this thing is kind of like gone so far off the deep end that at this point, like what else can we expect than to see this show go away, or at least this show like not be managed any better than what it's been over the last couple of years, or at least handled in some way over the last couple of years. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about all this down below in the comments section. Tell me, do you want to see E3 happen next year? Do you want E3 to go away? Why or why not? What do you think is the real reason why we might not be getting a show in 2024 or 2025? Besides all the stuff that I mentioned, like, is there another reason I might have forgotten or people are not talking about? Talk to me about all that stuff down below in the comment section. Of course, make sure you guys leave a like on this podcast episode. Check out the playlist too. I have a whole playlist devoted to all these podcast episodes, so if you missed any of them on any of the topics that we've discussed already, the entire playlist has every single episode for you guys to check out. Also, be on the lookout for more new videos. I got a brand new video up right now, Mortal Kombat 1 stress test beta footage on PlayStation 5. I got a whole bunch of matches, the arcade ladder of the entire stress test that I played on the first day when it went live. I also got other stuff as well, other games, including Crash Team Rumble. I'm also going to be doing later on in the week, well, not this week, but next week, for AEW Fight Forever, which is the AEW wrestling game. I actually got sent that by, by Terminals, or at least the THQ, which is the publisher of that game, which plays very similar to like the old style, like N64 wrestling games. That's actually been put out there. That's public. So we're under embargo until the end of next week. So I'll have plenty to show and talk about with that game soon. But keep in mind also, I should also mention, my review of Final Fantasy 16. I'm playing the game right now over the weekend, playing a lot of it. I have so much to say about this game, but overall I'm enjoying it. I'm going to have a really beefy review to share with you guys to talk about this game. I can't wait to discuss all of it, but either way, keep an eye out on all that content. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, because again, there's a lot of great stuff coming down the line. And also, before I go, I should mention, make sure you're following me on TikTok as well, okay? I got a ton of videos every single day going live on TikTok, gaming related, movie related, Star Wars related. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there. Make sure you guys check it out when you can. All those links and even more is down in the description box of this episode, just like in every other episode or video that I post up here on the channel. So check out all that stuff. I'm all like tongue twisted here. Check out everything that I mentioned, and I will talk to all of you guys again real soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.